This is the Kinus Hashluchos weekend. The Hashluchos are incredible. They're awesome. They're amazing. But enough about them. They really are amazing. I travel around. I go to the different Chabad houses, and there is no such thing in history. There's no way to describe it because it's just not it's not normal. There are no words for it because it's never happened before, and it's not even understandable how it's happening now. It's completely unreasonable. Their lives are not livable. It's just not, it's miraculous. And I guess that's part of being on Shlichus, is that you're living on a higher standard of reality. And you can do things that you can't do. It's simply not possible. So let's begin with a little bit of the background on the concept of shlichus. Shluchei shel adam k'moisei. That already is like a miraculous, superhuman, magical statement. You can represent the Rebbe, you can spread the Rebbe's teachings, you can tell people about the Rebbe, but what does it mean that you are the shliach is the mishaleach? It's a different reality. And what it is, as far as we can understand it, the objective and the goal of human beings, and particularly of Bnei Yisrael, was to elevate ourselves to the highest level that we can achieve. Belev echad ke'ish echad, that's not human. But in the moment of the gilui of Torah, of Har Sinai, or as the Medrash says, that le'nitna ha'Torah ela le'echle haman. Before the Yidden could receive the Torah, they first had to eat the mun. So it wasn't just something to eat. It was a hachana. It prepared them to be able to be makabel Torah. So I guess what you eat, you are what you eat. So eating mun was like a necessary refinement or preparation of the human being to be able to receive something more than human. Now, if we take that as a design, eating is a natural human need. Eating mun was not so natural. In fact, the Eden had a taina that lechem min hashamayim doesn't work for the guf. The body needs food min ha'oretz. Lechem min hashamayim doesn't do, I don't know, maybe it doesn't have fiber or something. It tasted delicious and it was very good, but a bissel himmeldik. And yet that was the preparation for Kabbalas HaTorah. So what do we need to do to elevate ourselves, to make ourselves worthy, capable, kalim, to be able to receive the Torah? Chassidus took it a giant step forward. The demand or the expectation that you do mitzvahs lishma without personal, selfish motivations, Is that not superhuman? It's superhuman. You should devote your life, live your life day by day, without any thought of any reward, of any... The guy comes to the Alter Rebbe and he says, I give a lot of tzedakah, I have an open house, I a lot of machnasa serchem, but I don't know if I'm really sincere. Am I really sincere? Now, obviously, this is a guy who's idealistic. Not only does he do what you're supposed to do, but he's introspective. He wants to make sure that his inner motives are correct, and so on. What does the Rebbe say to him? The Rebbe says to him, the poor people who eat your food enjoy the food sincerely. So,
could you repeat?
he said that he doesn't know how sincere he is when he gives tzedakah. So the Rebbe said, the people who eat your food enjoy it sincerely. So, in the mitzvah of tzedakah, where does the sincerity fit? Where is the need for sincerity? The one who's giving the tzedakah? No, because tzedakah is about the poor person with his needs. So if he is sincerely satisfied, you did good. Are you sincere? See, that actually ruins the mitzvah. When you start to think, am I sincere? You're focused in the wrong place. You're giving the tzedakah because the guy needs tzedakah. He needs food. Emitamol, it becomes about your sincerity. You're going in the wrong direction. This is superhuman. You shouldn't even feel sincere. He's not asking to feel special, to feel like he's great. He's not asking for a compliment. He just wants to be sincere. Teignisht. That's pretty godly, not human. Over the generations, Chassidus made Chassidim superhuman. That the Chassid who was a spy by Napoleon in the tent, and he could control his heartbeat, that's beyond. Then Chassidus took a step further. Not only are you absolutely honest and true and selfless, which is called pnimis, the next step is everything you do should be more important to you than life itself. Mesiras nefesh. Not mesiras nefesh when a guy wants you to bow to an idol. Mesiras nefesh every time you do a mitzvah. Because for this mitzvah, I would have mesiras nefesh. That's not human. And yet, in the last generations of the history of Chassidim, that became normal. The average Chassid lived with mesiras nefesh day by day. And by the time of the Frierdiker Rebbe, it Nebuch became physical, actual mesiras nefesh, b'poil mamish. Awesome. No book, no article has been written about this that does justice. Chassidim were harassed, they were arrested. It doesn't begin to tell the story. Without mentioning names, I was telling the story in a Chabad house. I was telling the story about one of the Chassidim of the Frierdiker Rebbe who vowed mesiras nefesh And one of the 10 who the Rebbe made them swear that they would continue until they're dead. One of them survived, and I was telling a story about how he handled his imprisonment and his labor camps. Really impressive, no? Anyway, one of the Russian shluchim came over to me afterwards and said, you know, by us in Russia, we didn't talk about him so much, because he had a little gaiva. You guys are impossible. On top of all of that,
American people can understand.
no, because it doesn't make sense. Does not make sense. Anyway, so Chassidus elevated the human being probably to the highest level possible. So the question is, after the Frierdiker Rebbe, where do you go from there? Like in the Parsha, it describes Matan Torah, and then right after it said, and there was no water, so the people complained, and they made a whole thing. What? We were at the highest point of the highest experience in the human history. We're standing at Har Sinai. We hear the Eibishter, 10 Commandments, and then there was a complaint. There was no water. What did we just fall from heaven to earth? But the real question is, Matan Torah is in middle of the Chumash Shmos. And the Chumash Shmos is in the middle of the Torah. What could possibly follow? Once you hear there was Matan Torah, and then what? It's about as high as you can go. So what's that? What do you do for an encore? Where do you go from there? It should be the end of the Torah. Because what more can you say? We stood by Har Sinai and we heard the Eibishter, and then?
Come down.
What could be more? So there's no choice. You have to say, okay, that was very good, but we didn't have what to drink. It was a very intense experience and left you thirsty. So isn't that a strange transition of?
One day we don't eat, so from Olam.
So if you've reached the highest level that a human being can be, that should be the end of history. But after the Frierdiker Rebbe, there's a Der Hashvi. What? It's done. We can't get any higher. It's possible that this is what Moshe Rabbeinu faced. Moshe Rabbeinu was the Shvi, and the Eibishter says, go tell them. And Moshe Rabbeinu was thinking, like, we have 6 generations of bringing the Eibishter down to earth. We've accomplished it. What more? It's the end of history. It's done. Like at the end of the 6 days of creation. Vayar Elokim es kol asher asa v'hinei tov ma'od. That's it. End of book. Let's go. Let's go home. Where do you go after tov ma'od? Then what? It sounds like the only place to go is into bad, because good can't get any gooder. It's already tov ma'od. So what can we talk about? We were thirsty. You can't say anything more in Ruchnius because you've made it to the top. So the Shaila of Ader Hashvi that we're in is a very basic question. We've already achieved perfection. If you live day by day with Mesiras Nefesh, the only thing that can happen is you go down. Not as great anymore. That's not good news. That doesn't make the Deir HaShvi special.
This is why we are so fabulous.
So confused. So here's what the Rebbe said. As far as the human being is concerned, we've reached the top. There's no more. You can't get better. Maybe that's what the Rebbe meant, that we should stop polishing the buttons. The buttons are polished. If you continue polishing, you make it worse. Kolu kol akitzim. There's nothing more that we need to become because it stops. The Baal Shem Tov asked Mashiach, when are you coming? We already know the answer. In the times of the Gemara, Mashiach was asked, when are you going to come? And he said, Hayom. And he didn't come that day. So Eliyahu Hanavi explained that what Mashiach meant is Hayom im bekoilei tishmo. In other words, when you will listen, then I will come. So why is the Baal Shem Tov asking again? You know the answer. So the Rebbe says, the Baal Shem Tov asked again because the Baal Shem Tov was sure that we fulfilled that requirement. Im bekoilei tishmo, we did that. We listened.
This time of sure.
Times of the Baal Shem Tov.
Yeah.
So the Baal Shem Tov was saying, no, we fulfilled that. So Mashiach said, you fulfilled it al pi nigla, but now you have to fulfill it al pi chassidus. In other words, my nesecho, chassidus has to. Now the Rebbe comes along and says, kol akitzim ad mosai, what's going on? But you know what's going on. There has to be a hafatzas hamayones. Why is the Rebbe saying, where's Mashiach? Because that was also fulfilled already. We did Teshuvah already, we learned Chassidus already. Now what? So you can say, oh, the Rebbe was on Oyev Yisrael, he saw everything positive, but really, we're not so good. Maybe the Rebbe is looking at us in the future, he's a little bit ahead of the times, he's seeing what's going to be in a few years, and he's a little impatient. Why not now? These are all good excuses. The fact is, the Rebbe felt that there's nothing more to do. And it was so frustrating. How many times the Rebbe said, there is no hesber for why Mashiach is not here? There's no hesber. I can find you some hesber, you know? Why, we're all perfect. But obviously that's not what's necessary. We reached the highest level and the Rebbe was upset. Now what? When we reach the highest level, what comes after that? When you make yourself a keli, and you're a perfect keli, and you're thinking, maybe I should become a better keli, and you're told, no, you're starting to ruin it if you polish any more. So if you're the perfect keli, now what?
Stop pouring.
Huh?
Stop pouring.
Start?
If you're a keli,
Fill the keli.
stop pouring, no?
In other words, when the keli is ready, then the oil has to come. Making the keli more of a keli is wasting time. So what does that mean? Moshe Rabbeinu came along, he saw the Yidden, and he said, Ish echad, belev echad, naaseh v'nishma, can't get better. So what do you need me for? The Yidden achieved the highest level. They're so perfect. What do you need me for? Even Kairach said that. Even Kairach said, yeah, we don't need you. We're good. Everybody today says, we're good. I'm good. So if you're good, what happens next? So Moshe Rabbeinu was told, V'osu li migdosh, v'shachanti b'seicha. So if you already made the Mishkan, now what has to happen? Now the Eibishter has to do something. Now the Eibishter has to be in the Mishkan. But to keep building the Mishkan, no, that's wrong. Moshe Rabbeinu was the 7th generation that made that switch. For 6 generations, it was the same Avodah. Elevate yourself more, make yourself more of a keli, get a little higher, less selfish, more mesiras nefesh, until you reach the point of absolute mesiras nefesh. And then we realize it's not even about us. When we become the perfect mensch, we realize that it's not about being a mensch. What is it about? It's about bringing the Shechina lemata. So the Rebbe basically said, stop polishing the buttons, stop making yourself better, higher, greater. Now, the Eibishter has to have a dira b'tachteina. That is such a radical change. Like from the Alter Rebbe to Mittler Rebbe. What was the radical change? The Alter Rebbe, when he davened, was very animated, and the Mittler Rebbe sat still. A different kind of avodah. Okay. The Alter Rebbe said, short Maimorim. The Mittler Rebbe made Maimorim longer. Great. What's the difference between the Mittler Rebbe and the Tzemach Tzedek? Tzemach Tzedek added nigle. Okay, great. What that did in Tachlis HaKavana, of whatever it is, but Chassidim were not shocked. Whoa, how do you bring nigle into Chassid? Okay. And so on through the generations, it went better and better and better, and there was no shock. A little bit by the Rebbe Marash. This L'chatchila Rebbe attitude was a little shocking, but not so radical. The Rebbe is radical. Like the difference between weekday and Shabbos. According to Chassidus, every day is a day of Shabbos, right? Hayom Yom Rishon b'Shabbos. So every day is a day of Shabbos. And each day becomes a little more Shabbos-dik. Till you get to Friday, Thursday night is already Friday, Erev Shabbos. But the difference between Friday and Shabbos is shocking. It's radical. The Rebbe's message is radical. And many Chassidim had a hard time with it. What happened here? So what is the message? The message is, until now, the focus has been on us. Now the focus is on the Eibishter. Of course, until now, during the 6 days, of course you're serving the Eibishter. I mean, what else? We actually made fun of people who are frum, but don't believe in an Eibishter. Yeah? But during the 6 days, what were you doing for the Eibishter? making yourself better. For the Eibishter. But what were you doing? Making yourself better. You traveled a long distance to come to the Alter Rebbe to ask him, what about my sincerity? How do I do tzedakah with more sincerity? So what are you focused on? On the Eibishter. On yourself. Making yourself a keli. The pressure was on the person. What was a fabringen? For all the years, through all the generations, what's a chassidische fabringen? Chassidische fabringen is, you got to get your act together. Look at you. Look at you. You eat too much. You sleep too much. You do mitzvahs with selfish motivations. What's going to be with you? Who's going to want to marry you? So the pressure, the urgency was, when will you become a mensch? And every generation becoming a mensch became more challenging because the mensch of yesterday, peikshenisht. So you're a pnimi, and you do avodah, and you daven all day long, but where's your mesiras nefesh? Oh, you have mesiras nefesh, but a little bit gave it. So, what the Rebbe was saying is, we're fine. We're not fine. Fine, we're not fine. Soll sein also. But it's not about us anymore. Polish the buttons. Don't polish it doesn't matter anymore. Now, the Eibishter has a little bit tachtenim or not. So who is urgent? Where is the pressure? The pressure is on the Eibishter. So when the Rebbe said, there's no explanation, he's talking not from the human perspective. By the Eibishter, there was no reason. So, once you switch, so the first thing that happens, that should happen, the pressure on you has to stop.
This was the depressed.
Yeah.
I think Mako is
Yes.
depressed.
Yes. Why?
For 14, she's depressed.
It's serious. Yeah.
And
So, listen to what happens. The ability to elevate yourself to become a pnimi, the ability to develop within yourself a chushin mesiras nefesh, you can't do that yourself. It's not human. The Rebbe made that possible. The Rebbe opened up that door, gave that koyach, that people should be able to raise themselves. But if this is not the time for that, and the Rebbe is not giving you that koyach, you're doing it on your own, you're going to get depressed. It's not going to work. So if you're polishing buttons because you were told to polish buttons, they'll come out shiny. If you're polishing buttons because you're OCD, you know, like you're a little bit obsessive compulsive with the polishing, it's going to make it worse. So today we have to tell our children, at least, like we tell people that we're mekadev, the pressure is not on you. Nobody's asking you to become a tzaddik, not even a beinani. Not even a beinani. I just read recently someplace where it says that Binyamin Kletzke, the famous chassid of the Alter Rebbe, he was a beinani from Tanya. If that's the case, stop polishing the buttons, because no chance. No chance. So we don't tell people that they should become beinanim. We don't tell them to do avodah to elevate themselves. We tell them that the Eibishter is waiting for their mitzvah, and roll up your sleeve and put on tefillin. So the reforms say, wow, you're so non-judgmental, you're so accepting of people. We're not. We're horrible. But that has nothing to do with Yiddishkeit. What has to happen now, as far as Yiddishkeit is concerned, is not on the human level to spend time elevating people. Now, the Dira B'Tachtenim has to happen. The Eibishter is getting impatient. His golus is becoming unbearable. So that relief is really necessary just for mental health. So when a person today says, you know, I'm really upset because I'm such a hypocrite.
Who is not?
So in the olden days, he would make an appointment for Yechidus. He would travel for 3 weeks on foot to come to Yechidus. He would fast a couple of days before. He would make all sorts of hachanas, and then he would go into Yechidus and ask the Rebbe, what should he do? He's a hypocrite. And the Rebbe would give him a Seder Avodah. How to daven and what to do, and so that he should not be a hypocrite. Today, if you would come to the Rebbe and say, Rebbe, what should I do? I'm a hypocrite. The Rebbe would say, well, if you're a hypocrite, then at least help somebody else, because you're verfallen. You're a lost case. So why waste time on that when you can help somebody else? And helping somebody else is the mitzvah of the day. Mm-hmm. It's not, well, you know, you can't fix yourself, so at least, not at least. This is the mitzvah of the day. If you're bringing the Shechina Lamata, if your focus is on what does the Eibishter need from me, you're on the right track. If not, do whatever you want. Be a hypocrite. Don't be a hypocrite. So when the Rebbe asked people to go on Hashluchos, I'm getting to the point. When the Rebbe asked people, when the Rebbe asked people to go on Hashluchos, it was an uncomfortable idea. Since when does a chassid go tell somebody else what to do? You can say that. You work on yourself, you fix yourself. Maybe if you were perfect already and you were already beyond lefnim mishuras hadin, then you can go help somebody else. But who's perfect? Whose buttons are already polished? So Chassidim said, I can't go on Hashluchos. What's going to be with my hypocrisy? With my Avedis, with my Grobkeit, with my... And the Rebbe looked at them and said, this is what you're going to spend your life? Polishing noch a button. This is it? And the goal is to endlessly until you get your act together? Can't be. So all of a sudden, I mean, putting it in blunt words, all of a sudden, the highest value of the previous generation seems like petty and narish and selfish. What a shock. But it was a shock to the system. So what did the Rebbe accomplish? The Rebbe raised an entire generation, and it took a lot of work. Because to make this transition in one generation, it took 6 generations to become a mensch. And in one generation, so what is happening today? Where do you go after you've become a perfect human being? And it doesn't mean every individual is a perfect human being. In the world, this perfection was accomplished. Mm-hmm. Even if it was just 10. 10 people in the whole world, doesn't matter. There were only 10 people in the whole world that Noach saved the whole world, because there were... So, to make that change in one generation is mamish, like beyond anything that any Rebbe ever did. So what comes after you're perfected? After the world is so perfected, the next step is the Shechina has to come down Lamata. It's like it's the Eibishter's turn. But Shluchei Shel Adam K'meisei. So we have to bring the Eibishter down to earth by making sure that every corner, every place, every human being, everybody in the world knows that the Eibishter is Melech al Kol Ha'olam. Even in Crown Heights. And that's very true. Why especially? And we need that bracha because we're the ones confused by this shift. When you come to a guy in the street and you say it's time to bring the Shechina down Lamata, he says, sure. He has no idea what came before, fine. But you talk to a chassid who learned a little bit of chassidus, bring the Shechina down Lamata. Who? Me? I'm a low life. So it's such a challenge. But the Rebbe succeeded, and he produced people who are not at all bothered by their own growth and perfection, and they're completely devoted to what has to happen. And I think the people who got that message best are the Shluchos, not the Shluchim.
15 kids.
How is it even possible to do what they do? It's because we're not human anymore. Once you're not focused on perfecting yourself, then there's no limits. If I'm working with my abilities, with my koyach, with my energy, with my intelligence, and then there's a limit. How much can a human being do? But once you step out of that mindset, once you come to that conclusion, it's really not about me at all, not about my goodness even. Certainly not about my selfishness. That we accomplished a long time ago. But it's not even about my godliness. Well, if it's not about me, then it's endless. Rabbi Chadakov said to an early shliach, who said, I'm ready to go on shlichus, aber ich kenn gar nicht. What do I know? I'm sheltered. I spend my life in 770. Go out into the world. Ich kenn gar nicht. So Rabbi Chadakov said to him, Abe, du kennst gar nicht, kennst du doch alles. It's so brilliant. If you're not good at anything, then you can do everything. If you think you're good at something, then that's all you're going to do. And then if you're asked to do something else, you're going to say, no, that I'm not good at. You're not good at anything. Great, now you're a shliach. So the definition of a shliach is somebody who's not good at anything. Huh? So if you notice a shliach who's not good for anything, don't be surprised. But if shluchim are not good at anything, what are shluchos? Nobody even asks them, are you good at anything? They're not even. So they are more capable of anything even than the shliach. It wouldn't be a bad idea for shluchos to have a forced vacation at least every other year. Wouldn't be a bad idea. But it's amazing what. So what does that leave us?
Well, they do. They have Kinus Hashluchos.
Right.
It's a vacation.
So relaxing.
No, it is, right?
Okay, at least this year it's not snowing. Right? Every year the weather has to be miserable also. All right, so what does that mean? Only shluchos? This phenomenon, this reality that we're beyond ourselves now. We're completely beyond human limitations because the Aveda of this generation is the Eibishter's urgency, not ours. It's an amazing thing. The Gemara says that there was this Baal Teshuvah, Rebbe Lezer ben Dordaya. He sinned his entire life, but religiously, with a devotion. Towards the end of his life, he realized that he messed up, so he cried until he died. And the Baskol said, Rebbe Lezer ben Dordaya is ready for his chelik in Olam Haba. He had lost his chelik. I mentioned this to somebody who was not Lubavitch. He said, "Oh, the Lubavitch is always." We never heard of that story. So it's in the Gemara. Yeah, I know, but we don't talk about it. You make a big deal about it because they don't like it. They don't like that story. Here, they're working so hard to get into Gan Eden. And this guy comes along, and goes and got, what is that? Not fair. They hate,
For many years before that.
they hate that story.
Well, they do a lot of crying. Doesn't work for them.
It was the fun part there.
But the technical question is, in order to go into Olam Haba, you have to have mitzvahs. Teshuvah is wonderful, but where are the mitzvahs? How can he go into Gan Eden without mitzvahs? The Avedas are erased,
Yeah,
but there's no mitzvahs.
became
So, whoa. So the Rebbe says that when you do Teshuvah, it produces the same effect as the mitzvahs that you should have done. Enough that you can go into Gan Eden because you have all those garments that the mitzvah would have given you. So now we have another problem. The Gemara says that Teshuvah helps for everything except for the failure to do a mitzvah. If you didn't do the mitzvah, you didn't do the mitzvah. It's missing. Yeah, mitzvah says it. But now the Rebbe is saying that you get all the benefits from the Teshuvah. So what does it mean Teshuvah doesn't help? It does help. When he did Teshuvah, he created in his Teshuvah all the virtues, all the halakite and the whatever it is you need that would come from doing mitzvahs. He created that and was able to go into Gan Eden. So what does it mean you can't really do Teshuvah for a mitzvah saseh? you can get into Gan Eden. You will have all the benefits of that mitzvah. But the Eibishter doesn't. The benefits that the Eibishter would get when you did the mitzvah never happened.
Like the pleasure we use it.
So for you, yeah, you can fix yourself. Teshuvah will fix you. Even bringing you the benefits of a mitzvah. But the Eibishter you didn't serve.
This O is missing.
So I think the Frierdiker Rebbe said that a neshama can be in Gan Eden for 500 years. I don't know why he picked 500 years. Maybe he was talking about a particular neshama. That a neshama can be in Gan Eden for 500 years and has no idea what godliness is. He's sitting in Gan Eden, 500 years. Godliness is not his thing. What does it mean? Holiness, yeah. But what the Eibishter needs, he doesn't feel it.
Again, selfish.
Yeah.
What you say, for himself is fine.
Yeah. He fixed himself by the Teshuvah. So the Gemara says that when that happened, Rebbe cried. And he said, Yesh kainei lomei b'shah achas.
So I cried.
You can fix yourself in an hour. And not only that, the Eibishter calls you Reb Elazar. Now he's a rabbi also. So why was he crying? That's what he was crying. You fixed yourself and now you're a Reb. But
The Tata is missing.
the Eibishter didn't get what he needs. So in our generation, whether we'll fix ourselves or not, should not even be an issue. It's not mesiras nefesh. Give up fixing yourself in order to help somebody else. The young shluchim don't feel mesiras nefesh. Like, I wish I could stay in Crown Heights and daven 6 hours a day. No. Thank you very much. I'd rather live in a big house with a lawn and be completely devoted to everybody else's problem. Yeah. Obviously, if you're teaching and you're inspiring, how can you not be inspired by it? Not have the inspiration to give. Get the inspiration from giving. In other words, as the Eir comes into the Keli becomes infinitely better, richer.
Transformed.
Right. So every time you see a Jew react to a mitzvah, what that does for you. So the Rebbe once said to some shluchim, you think you're there for their benefit? You went there for your benefit. But not the benefit of previous generations, of self-improvement, the benefit of bringing the Shekhinah into your world, into yours, just like you're bringing it into the other person's. If that's the case, then of course the shluchos are incredible, because it's full-time and it's it's not voluntary anymore. And that's amazing. But to say that it's limited to them, the Deir Hashvi is shluchim, it's the entire Deir. When the Rebbe tells a college student going back to college that he should remind his friends to put on tefillin, that doesn't make him a shliach. And on the other hand, of course he's a shliach. It's the 7th generation. So in the Deir Hashvi,
Everybody is sure.
that's the whole Yiddishkeit of shlichus. The entire Yiddishkeit today is shlichus. You are the Eibishter shliach now to bring him into the world. Again, if you're not fixing yourself, then the only thing left, so be a shliach. It's so when we ask the question, if we've already made ourselves perfect, what's next? It's a very good question.
This is depression.
So really the question is not what's next, who's next?
Mashiach.
Now that we got what we need, no, who needs now? The Eibishter. So if the Eibishter needs, then what are you doing? You're his shliach. That's all that's left. It's not lifnim mishuras hadin. So really, shluchim, once you become a shliach, it's not voluntary anymore. It should never have been voluntary. If you live in this generation, there is no other choice. Like another way of putting it is, there are no frum from birth anymore. There's no such thing. If you're frum from birth, you're a shegetz.
Why?
It doesn't work like that anymore. Unless you're about Teshuvah, you're not part of this generation's mitzvah.
I didn't get.
You're not part of what? What was that sentence?
Of the mitzvah of this generation. Yiddishkeit in this generation is Teshuvah. When it says Yisrael Esim Teshuvah Umiyad Heim Negolim, what does that mean?
Everybody. That's all.
Not if you did an Aveda, do Teshuvah. No, has nothing to do with Avedas. This generation is a generation of Teshuvah. You were from birth? Well, do Teshuvah.
It's how they also have to do.
Yeah.
What does that mean?
True, it taught from hey, to come back to
What does it look like?
What it means is that it's not about me. Not about me. So even if I was perfect in my Yiddishkeit, but it was about me, well, then do Teshuvah. So now the question is, what exactly is the difference between the shliach and the shlucha? Or male shlichus and female shlichus?
No, look in Matan Torah. Can't say much.
Okay, so the first thing is that to shluchos you have to speak a little nicer. Right? That's the first. Schreinisht, you know. You can scream at shluchim, you don't scream at shluchos.
She just fed you.
That's why I think Rabbi Krinsky spoke years ago at the Kinus, shluchos, and I think he said not only the best thing, but the only thing you can say to shluchos. He said, whatever you're doing, keep doing it. That's Kaisei Malabes Yankiv. What? Demand more? Were you crazy? So, here in Crown Heights, and we've spoken about this a number of times, the Rebbe approved of the concept of Beis Chabad. Not a shul, not a yeshiva, not a Beis Medrash, a bayis. What is the difference? A bayis is where you feel welcome, you feel nurtured. You come to a Beis Medrash, you could be very uncomfortable. Do you know enough to participate with the others who know more than you? Or to the average Jew, he walks into a shul, does he know which side of the siddur to open? He opens up a chumash, and then all of a sudden he's sitting, everybody else is standing. It's very uncomfortable. You do not feel at home. Maybe you should. Maybe the shuls need to do something to become a little more user-friendly. But the fact is, a shul is not comfortable. A beis medrash, definitely not comfortable. It's competition. How much do you know? How much do they know? A house. So the difference basically is masculine and feminine. A house is feminine. A shul is masculine. What's needed in our generation is a feminine. The difference is men are always driven to improve themselves. So when you try to convince men to stop polishing their buttons, you get some resistance. If a man does succeed in letting go of himself, then he's basically becoming feminine. So the feminine nature of this welcoming, nurturing, Crown Heights needs a lot. The flavor of Crown Heights, although there is a lot of nurturing, but the flavor is like the first impression is not so comfortable. There isn't enough of a feminine, mothering feeling in the community. And again, it's happening, it's going on all over, but for some reason, there's like a cloud blocking that. So the Hashluchos and the Kinus of the Hashluchos is simply a reminder and an inspiration. Like Rivki said, Crown Heights should be the ultimate Chabad house. There shouldn't be this tension between Crown Heights and Hashluchos.
Anti and not anti.
It's not a crisis, and it's not a. But there's a different flavor. A shliach comes, and he's not wearing a white shirt. Well, you're assimilated. You're colleague of you're. And the shliach thinks, that's it. Das ist dein Yiddishkeit, the white shirt. So there's a bit of a conflict of interest or of. So who's right? Who's right? Plenty of Bacharim complain. All you want is that I should wear a white shirt, but the shirt is more important than my neshama. So, do shluchim have to become more like Crown Heights? Or does Crown Heights have to become a little bit more like shluchos? They're probably both true.
Yeah.
Good. So there's room for improvement here, there's room for improvement there, but what is the main point? The main point is there can only be one way of being a chassid, and that is by being the Rebbe shliach. How many times did the Rebbe say that? It's something new. The Rebbe Marash never asked anybody to be his shliach. But the Rebbe did. So the way to be a chassid today is by being his shliach. That's what he asks, that's the hiskashos. So at least on that, there should be no difference between Crown Heights or outside of Crown Heights. It's the Deir HaShvi, it's not your job, his job, their job. It's the generation, it's everybody. And I got to tell you, I've listened to the speeches that people make at the end of the college year, the graduation, commencement speeches. for many, many years. All the speeches, no matter who was speaking, sometimes it's a professor, sometimes it's a psychologist, sometimes it's a general from the army, politicians, actors. Everybody said the same thing. Wow, you made it. You graduated. You're the best. You're the top. Go out there and make a fortune and make your life perfect. Everybody said that. Everybody said that. That was the pep talk for a graduating. This year, the end of last school year, everybody said almost the same words. You graduated, now go out and fix the world. They're the Rebbe's shluchim, and they don't know it. They're not even Jewish. But this is the Deir Hashvi. There's nothing else.
Just on American campuses, you're saying that was a speech?
Fix the world, improve the world. That's it. The Nasi Hadeir is the Lev. So everybody in this generation, intuitively or instinctively or whatever the word is, knows that it's not about the individual. It's about fixing the world. And who needs the world fixed? Who needs the world fixed? And that's why wanting Mashiach, because we have issues, problems, and we want Mashiach to come and fix that, this is not Mashiach. You got it all wrong. This is the Mashiach of the 6 generations. But the Mashiach of the 7th generation? Don't come to fix my problems. First of all, my problems are not as terrible as my grandfather's. So if you didn't come to fix my grandfather's problems, you don't have to come to fix mine. As the Rebbe said, even when the Golus is perfect, Begashmius and Beruchnius are good Golus. We have a good Golus. We don't need Mashiach to take us out of Golus. So what do we need Mashiach for? To take the Eberstedt out of Golus. That's a completely different mentality. So on the one hand, we can be so happy. If you take the pressure off me, I don't have to be a Beinani from Tanya. You know what kind of relief that is for somebody who takes it seriously? It's terrible. It's terrible. It is truly depressing. Because you're trying to become something you can't be. It's horrible. It is such a relief.
My blood pressure just went down.
So, can we be happy? We can be very happy. Except, they asked the Rebbe, why? What is with Mashiach now? What's wrong with B'meheira b'yameinu? So the Rebbe said, if you're thinking only about yourself, yeah, for you it'd be good. Next week, next month, a year from now, you'll finish paying off your mortgage, whatever. But that's if you're thinking only about yourself. But if you think about there are 14 million Jews in the world, and you're saying another week wouldn't be so terrible. Another week, that's 14 million weeks of suffering? Why are you okay with that? And then the Rebbe said, and if you think about the Eibishter, by the Eibush that every second is like a forever. So the Mashiach we want is not the Mashiach our grandmothers wanted. And that's why the Rebbe was so critical, or it doesn't bother you that Mashiach isn't here? Of course it does. Everybody wants Mashiach. And the Rebbe is saying, no, what no? You want Mashiach because you have a problem. That's not the Mashiach of our generation. In fact, you might say, the Mashiach that Ani Mamin is not the Mashiach we want. The Mashiach we believed in forever. This is a different Mashiach. The Mashiach we're talking about, he has to come. Don't tell me, Emunah, Shlema, Lazat. The Mashiach of our grandparents, yeah, Emunah. The Mashiach of our generation, it's not Emunah. You have Emunah. What does that do for the Eibishter? You have Emunah that Mashiach will come, so you're okay. And the Eibishter, he should have Emunah too. So what can we do to get everybody on board? This is not about any individual. This is not about our personal problems, and it's not about our personal perfection. There's a whole big world that the Eibishter wants to have as his dira. No, so what can we do? That would eliminate a lot of pettiness and a lot of conflict and competition. But this doesn't mean build another floor to your house and turn it into a Chabad house. And you don't have to do anything to be part of this generation, because you already are. It's just a matter of appreciating what we are. So to say Crown Heights is one big Chabad house, it is. We just don't realize it. Because that's all there is. That's Yiddishkeit today. Yiddishkeit today is the Eibishter wants the world to be a dira, not a shul. And a dira means a place where you feel like you belong, a place that is welcoming and nurturing. Only women can do that. So we need Crown Heights needs a mama, needs a motherly touch, a motherly feel to it.
Needs to reach out to our youth that are off the derech.
Same thing.
That's why they are.
Yiddishkeit has to feel like a home.
Too many kids feel judged.
Yeah. And we worry about the kids who are a little verblonget. But what about the ones who are pushed the best kids in yeshiva and they're suffering terrible?
Why?
Because they're trying so hard and they're so frustrated. And they look like they're about to burst at any minute. And everybody compliments them. Oh, Chassidish Bacha, you're trying so hard. You shouldn't be trying hard. This is Shabbos. You're not allowed to try hard on Shabbos.
Shabbos Tanuk. There's no more.
We need to be made a very big gathering of all mechanchim of Kromchait in a very big zal, and you should tell it to them. It's a
Right,
very
'cause they don't
important
listen to us.
message for all
I did that.
mechanchim.
I did that. You know what they said?
But they said,
It's not our problem. You should gather all the women who are not mechanchim Everybody says on everybody else that.
They really said that?
No. No, I haven't talked to them.
Because that would be funny. Because I would be said that.
No, but it's true that when I talk to women about Shalom Bayis, everybody's like, oh, my husband should have heard this. I talk to the men, they say, are you telling the women this? Because they really need to hear this. Everybody needs to hear this. Everybody. From top to bottom.
Each of us. I had an anecdote in my house. Once my two little girls, there was speak up playing, and one said, "Do Ahavas Yisrael, give me your toy." So the other answered, "Do you Ahavas Yisrael and don't ask me."
No.
No,
Who's right?
no. Then he can do Ahavas Yisrael. They're going to find it.
So, but why is there so much resistance?
Alma Kutafyana.
Why aren't we getting it?
It comes from the other one.
Those are the ones that have to get it that don't end up coming to the thing. The ones who.
No. I just think it's not. Nobody's resisting.
That's right.
It's not a subject that people have heard.
Is it a mitzvah to have yeshivas? They should sit and learn. Maybe they should all be out on.
No. Gone up by an extreme. We need the Shiva Bochrim, we need Hashluchos.
You're just saying you don't need the pressure involved, right?
Very intelligent kids do a lot.
And the
ones that don't
Put
have
the
to
pressure
The
on
Gemara is very
themselves.
challenging.
They were
So
very
this is very challenging for the
Yeah, but the
intelligence.
Khan has to be more sensitive.
What do you mean?
I'm saying
Could you
they could be
explain
very
what-
stimulated by it.
Can you explain
for
what,
sure.
what this
He's talking
means
about
for
pressure
each individual
to-
woman sitting here, and each individual woman that's going to be listening? How is it just a perspective shift, and
That's
that's
all.
going to make our house more welcoming, and by each individual house be more welcoming?
Look, we're all doing what we should be doing.
Mm-hmm.
Better, worse. We're all in. We're all willing. So why the where's the discomfort and the friction and the? It's simply because we're not focused. That's all.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, every family where there's a kid who drifts away, they are forced to come to the realization that this generation is a little bit different. You have to be more. If they had that lechatchila,
You have to be more what?
Loving, warm.
more non-personal,
Mm-hmm. What does that mean?
not about yourself, not about the child.
Mm-hmm.
Chanech v'manal al-pi darkei. According to him, still.
There's a letter in the Igris. Somebody writes to the Rebbe that it sounds like a teenager. But he said, "I'm depressed, and I'm in bed all day. I can't get out of bed." And the Rebbe's answer was, "I wish I could do that. It's a luxury. But who has time?
To be
Yeah, but-
depressed.
How do you know the answer?
Get into bed
And be depressed.
Huh?
How do you know that's what the Rebbe meant? Liba Schwartz, when she couldn't see, she once said she bumped into a girl outside the pizza store. She said, well, what are you doing here? It's 2 o'clock. And she said, I'm playing hooky. And instead of saying, shanda for the goyim, she said, I always wanted to do that. I never got away with it. How do you do that? Girl woke up. She came to life.
Yeah, but the Rebbe wasn't saying I can't get away with it. The Rebbe was saying, personally, I would love to indulge myself, but there's so much to do. Not see. Here's this distinction is crucial. It's not I have so much to do.
There is so much.
There is so much to do.
הבטלה מביאה לשעמום. מאוד פשוטון. That's depressed.
But the Rebbe didn't, sometimes the Rebbe says that. But to this boy, the Rebbe said, "Hey, how nice that would be, but
But it's not.
you don't know what's going on in the world."
It's not within reach for the boy who who's stuck and cannot get out of it. It's not within reach. So,
So you see-
it's not true that there's so much to do. There's nothing for him to do because it's too far for him to reach. So there's nothing for him to do. He can't reach. Right, so that's a different thing. But he can't reach that darga where all of a sudden the world opens up for him. Yet there's nothing for him to do in where he's stuck.
Because
the Rebbe related to the place that this child was going.
Because he couldn't-
Didn't feel himself to be different or better.
yeah,
Okay.
he couldn't see himself becoming better. So he gave up on himself,
Right.
so it's all over. And the Rebbe is saying, what? If you gave up on yourself, now you can be a shliach.